Hello, everyone, and welcome to Elektor Lab Talk number 37. I'm Brian Tristam Williams, and I see a lot of you are in the chat room already. I've never seen such a busy chat room for a show that hasn't started. Belgium, Germany, Tunisia, Delft, Singapore. So welcome to everyone. I'm Brian Tristam Williams. I'm joined today by my colleague Jens Nickel, who's the editor-in-chief. He's very busy wrapping up our next edition. Jens, how are you?
I'm fine, Brian. How are you?
Great, thanks. Somebody said hello from sunny Birmingham. Sunny here too, which is sad because it's winter and I don't do well with heat, but I've got the aircon on. Hope it's not too much of a distraction. And our other colleague joining us now is Senior Engineer Saad Imtiaz. Saad, how's it going over there in Pakistan?
Well, Brian, all is well. It's hot and cold in my room, but
Yeah, I know the feeling. It's hot and it's cold. So we've got a lot to share with you as always about what's happening in wireless projects, Elektor Lab contribution, and what our team is working on right now. First, let me go to our giveaway, as always. Speaking of wireless and communication, our giveaway this time is the ESP32 cheap yellow display bundle. And I'll be giving you a code word for it later. This kit comes with a compact ESP32 based development board featuring a 2.8-inch monitor, touch display, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth speaker driver that works. And it comes with a 218-page full-color book by our Dogan Ibrahim. So good luck with that. I hope you win. We'll give the code word later in the show, as we always do. But before I go on, let's talk about our sponsor, Elektor Academy Pro. So this is our platform for learning and all kinds of conferences, and we've got books and boxes to show you. I will show you through them later, but it's for R&D specialists and makers who want to further their skills to professional level resources. Alexander Neumann from Elektor Academy Pro will be joining us later to tell us more about this and his upcoming conference on post-quantum cryptography. And he'll also have a nice discount code for you later in the show. So stay tuned and we'll catch up with him later. Now, let's get started with our latest cover. As I said, Jens has been working hard running that show. And there's our latest cover upcoming. Nice little preview for you, the audience. Jens's project, ESP32 audio transceiver board. We discussed that in previous show, and it certainly looks very interesting, and he's going to give us a little demonstration a bit later. I like this phone-controlled model car. That's up my alley. And then having a look at the table of contents, there's quite a lot in here. So I would ask maybe Jens first. Anything that jumped out at you of interest?
Yeah, our subject for September-October edition is traditionally wireless communication. And yeah, especially in that edition, we have many projects. So normally we have about 8. I think for that edition, we have 10, 11, depends how you count. So yeah, there is on the cover, the ESP audio transceiver board, Saad and me are developing. And yeah, that is more digital wireless transmission, but we also have analog transmission in form of the inductive AM transmitter from our colleague Clemens Valens. Then yeah, we have a lot of remote control projects. You said it. There's a remote controlled car, but you can also build that 4G compatible SMS remote control, and you can control equipment or your smartphone, a smart home with several relays. So there are 4 channels. Of course, you can adapt it to your needs. But we also have interesting background articles, for example, about satellite tracking using LoRa. What I also did not know, a lot of satellites, they have a LoRa modem built in. So they are actually sending out data via LoRa. And yeah, you can have a really cheap board and an antenna, and you can receive these signals, and with that and community tools, so to say, you can track satellites in space. So very nice background story. And Saad also wrote a very nice story about different wireless protocols. There is a big zoo of wireless protocols, so no one of us can have experience with them all. So Saad is writing about the pros and cons, very interesting stories. So we have, I think, a little bit for everyone in that edition. And it's coming out in the first or second week of September.
Yeah, I like these kinds of projects, the 4G remote control, and as I mentioned, the phone-controlled model car, Raspberry Pi Zero web streaming camera. Can I ask you guys a random question? It's okay if you don't know the answer, but I'm looking at the satellite tracking using LoRa, and I know LoRa has a certain range. How high are these satellites in terms of orbit altitude?
Yeah, you cannot track satellites in the geostationary orbit, of course, but there are a lot of satellites with lower orbits, and yeah, it's actually working. So yeah, I think on land, Saad, you have several dozens of kilometers, sometimes with some sophisticated situation and good antennas. They also can reach up to several hundred of kilometers, but okay, in space, it's really possible. So you can really receive the data. And yeah,
so they would have to be low Earth orbit.
Yeah.
Well, Saad, if we can move to your project that we alluded to earlier, your autonomous sensor node, version 2. Now you come in with the system architecture. Could you perhaps run us through that?
Absolutely. So yeah, it's basically version 2 of the last project I did, the LoRaWAN sensor node. So it's a complete redesign. Last time it was more of a modular sensor node project, but this time I thought, why not integrate everything on one PCB? So it can be used for pretty much all of these situations and even more. So yes, as always, ESP32S3 we have as the microcontroller. Then for this time, LoRaWAN, I'm using the rack wireless module, the 3172. And then yeah, new integration is a GPS module. So yeah, logging features, SD card logging features. Then we have a lot of power management architecture improvements. So we have a timer ICs, which can even lower down to in the nano amp region. Turn the entire system off rather than keeping everything in sleep. You can just use a timer IC. And this project was more of a, I think, just to decide which IC to use, how to minimize the power management. It took me, I think, 1.5 months. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the month, I would say, I decided to move with this timer IC I came across. And I thought, yeah, this can work. And of course, this timer IC is by Texas Instrument. I believe it's TPL 5110. So you can even control it with your microcontroller. And what the beauty about is that you can send when everything it starts up. It does not initiate a timer, but it waits for the done signal by the microcontroller. As you can see, an input going from the ESP32S3 to the timer. So when it's done, then it starts switching off. Then another improvement I thought it would be nice is to include load switches. So most of the times you don't have to power everything. Yeah. So if there's GPS locations not changing as you think, or you don't want a GPS module to turn on after 20 minutes, but you're getting readings after every 10 minutes. So you can save more power by not just switching on the GPS module and even sensors and so on and so forth. Another thing would be, of course, the most important thing is the battery charger and the solar by the solar panel, and also from the USB. So this was also another really good addition, I would say. So that yeah, I don't need another module, MPPT tracker module, in order to charge my batteries. It can be all in a one PCB, um, one PCB itself. So it's, yeah, it's overall, it's really good. I would say it would be a good long-term autonomous operation on outdoor environments, weather stations, remote monitoring, even in your car if you want to monitor. Uh, Last time, as I mentioned, you can integrate it with the OBD2 uh, display, and yeah, so on and so forth. I think it's a really nice, small, compact solution. I worked really hard on the energy optimization, but I still think that it's not the best. And I have to do a lot of testing now because it's yeah, I have to almost finish with the PCB design, and yeah, then the testing comes further.
So you are presenting in that article the system architecture. When do you think the PCB will be finished and the software will be finished?
Yes, absolutely.
When do you think will it be?
Well, it's how fast I can do, and how fast it can become. But yeah, my main goal will be probably next edition of Elektor, maybe, and I would say 2 editions after. So, but yeah, you never know. Maybe everything moves really quickly, fast. Everything looks good, and then we can have it in the next edition. But you never know.
In terms of power optimization, I built a circuit once with an Atmega 328P, and that runs on 5 volts, but I was running it off 2 1.5 volt batteries, AA's, so I needed to boost the power. And I try to take advantage of all the sleep modes and the microcurrent and all of that, but it seems like the boost converter was using more power than the microcontroller itself. How did you get around that?
Yeah, I used a really good buck boost converter. So it also has a sleep mode, and it also has a self power down switch. Well, basically has 2 modes. So it has, if the power consumption is above, I believe, 200 milliamps, it goes into the high current mode. But below that, it retains in the low current consumption mode. And yeah, it's a significant difference. I cannot be a data sheet right now to give you all the values, but in the article, these things are really, really good mentioned. So I would not talk about it more over here.
Yeah, don't give it away for free now. And Jens, tell us about your project, which I believe you're going to tell us about the ESP32 audio transceiver board.
Yeah, I already talked about that in the last lab talk, but okay, I was interrupted from time to time due to bad network. So today I'm sitting at home. I have better network here. Yeah, it's actually a PCB where you can plug on an ESP32 module. You can see it here in the top right. And I also have it on my desk. I don't just have one board on my desk. I have 3 boards on my desk, and you can see there are 2 senders and 1 receiver. So yeah, in the September edition, we are actually talking about a first transmission line, which works with 1 sender and 1 receiver. And yeah, I also had to develop that step by step. So I started with just mono transmission of 32 kilohertz audio with 16 bits. But okay, in the meantime, I made some progress. So now also a stereo transmission is possible. And I even managed it to have a dual channel approach. Yeah, that has some background because I'm using NRF24 modules, radio modules. And yeah, it turned out, for example, if there is a person right in front of the antenna, a packet can be lost. So with that dual channel approach, you have 2 senders. They are sending the same packets with the same audio. on 2 different radio channels, and the receiver receives these audio packets also on these 2 radio channels. And you can see here at the bottom, there is now the same PCB, or a similar PCB, I have to say, but there is another radio module. So we have one module on top of the device and one module at the rear of the device. And yeah, you can now, as I said, you can now receive the same packets on 2 different radio channels. And if one packet is missed on one radio channel, the ESP32 decides, okay, now I can take the other packet. Of course, that's not an idea I invented. That is a common approach. For example, if you use wireless microphones or something like that, if you transmitting packets on busy channels, 2.4 gigahertz, that is a very busy channel because everything is sending. You have Wi-Fi, you have Bluetooth, and so on. And yeah, now that really works. I can also demonstrate that. So if I turn up the volume, I selected a very old song, so I hope we don't get any problems. Now it's ending, but it will start again. So that is normal transmission. Let's jump to the. Let's jump back. Okay, that's another song, but it doesn't matter. And yeah, as said, we have 2 senders, and if you now switch one off, you can see the light is off and it's still working. And if you switch the other one off, it's still working. So you really have 2 senders sending the same, and you really have some redundancy. And the same goes if I, for example, turn off that antenna. So yeah, it really switches seamlessly to the other channel. And yeah, it was too late for the September article, but I probably will write something about that in the next edition in November, December. And yeah, the next idea would be to have, instead of 32 kilohertz, 48 kilohertz. So that's kind of professional quality then. It's better than CD quality. Mm-hmm. And but I will not send packets with stereo audio. I will just send mono. And yeah, you can calculate, and you have some bytes you can use for other purpose. And I want to send a timestamp. So the sender is not only sending audio packets; it only sends the timestamp in microseconds. So I have now this time, and the receivers can synchronize with that. But that you can imagine that is a very, very tricky thing, because you have, of course, different crystals on the different ESP32s, and yeah, it's a thing of microseconds, and then you have slight time differences and so on, and synchronize all the receivers then will be a tough thing. I also want to write to Espressif maybe to give me some support, to have some insights in the I2S interface, how they do it. Because yeah, according to my calculations, there should be glitches. For example, if you have a slight time difference in the ESP32s, on the sender side and on the receiver side, after some minutes, maybe after half an hour at the latest, there should be missing samples or something like that, but I hear nothing about that. So they had to find some tricks, and I would like to get some insights in that, because on the other hand, the music is played continuously. But I see if I send timestamps, then I see the timing on the receiver side is jumping a little bit, and that makes the synchronization really tough. So I first must get some insights how they do it, and then I can react maybe a little bit on these jumps. So yeah, that is really a work in progress. And yeah, we have, it's not only me, it's also Saad. We have further plans for the hardware also. Saad wants to make a much smaller, more compact hardware where we don't have these expensive modules plug-ons. We want to have a more compact hardware which can be also cheaper. So yeah, it's a long-term project, and I'm sure I will report on progress again in the next lab talks.
Great project, guys. I see you got a battery pack there, the transmitters. Is that an MP3 player, that little device with the...
Yeah, that is the small black thing. That's an MP3 player.
Cool. And Saad, how was your input to this project? Because you guys are working together from other sides of the planet.
Yeah, it's been a lot of GitHub and checking files and comments here and there. But yeah, I'm mostly dealing with the PCB side, but Jens is really working on the software. Yeah, because I was trying to source the components as well. I trying to replicate the same hardware, but of course, this worldly, I would say, thousands of miles difference does make an impact on this development. But yeah, thanks to internet, we are quite fast in making iterations, new PCB designs, and yeah, so on and so forth.
Yeah, things have changed since the 80s when people used to play chess by mail. Post your next move and wait a month on the other side of the world. Very interesting question from Herbert Betts. I'm not the expert here. You guys have more ESP32 experience, but he is asking, when developing special software like sleep modes on the ESP32, what environment is best used? He supposes not Arduino IDE platform IO processing language, but rather hardware near a C. And that's just where I'll comment, because Arduino is basically C. And from my Atmega experience, even if C's can't get down to the bare hardware enough for you, if you need it to perform faster, you can actually go down to direct register fiddling, and you can embed assembly in there. But what would you say, Arduino or Jens, about doing this on ESP32? Real-time OS, Zephyr?
In my experience, for sleep modes, Arduino IDE will suffice. Platform IO is also good, because yeah, the libraries of ESP32 for Arduino is really good. They update almost every week, and almost you're not missing out on anything if you're using, let's say, ESP IDF. Then I think you'll probably be missing a little bit because of the libraries, because there's a lot of community on the Arduino IDE side, little less on the ESP IDF. But yes, you can do both stuffs. But of course, as there's so much community, it's so easy to develop something on the Arduino side. And of course, as you said, you can also go down to the register level if you want to do fast switching. Definitely, it's possible on Arduino IDE. And platform IO, it's been a while, because I was on Arduino IDE, then I worked with platform IO for a couple of 2-3 years. Then I'm back on Arduino IDE because a lot of community members like to go that route. There is a benefit of both, yes, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's about creating or replicating the project again. And I think Arduino IDE is really good at doing that. So it's just one file. But yes, library is a problem. So that's why last years I was more focused on platform IO, because you can really mention, okay, I want to use this version library, and you just have to import it, and it just downloads everything, and you're just playing with one library. If you want to update a library, you can simply update it for that project, not all projects. So yes, it depends on the use case for sure. But yes, answering the question again, for sleep modes, I think everything is covered in all of these platforms. for sure. Like, I don't think there's a support where I would say it's not available in Arduino IDE, or it's just only available in platform or ESP-IDF.
Yeah, the comment from KF is that I would have used Zephyr with Z IDE and found them very natural fit to develop complex embedded codes. Jens, what platform were you working on when you worked on the software?
Pure Arduino IDE, I have to say, but maybe it will be not avoidable that I switch to ESP-IDF.
Interesting. I would have gone with Arduino IDE just because I'm more familiar with it. Frank DeHart says there's a demo somewhere on YouTube where the presenter shows how to program pure C++ code in Arduino IDE. I don't think it's that far removed from C++, although I'm not sure what the difference is. In C, you have a main loop. In Arduino, you have a setup and loop. But the language constructs are pretty much the same, I think. But it would be great to have your comments here in the chat. Thanks again for sending your comments through from all around the world. We're almost at halfway through the show, so I'm going to switch to our favorite labs project shortly, but let me move to the giveaway that I told you about earlier. It's the ESP32 cheap yellow display bundle, and it's cheap as in price, not cheap as in quality. It's a very cool display and a whole book about it, so lots of fun to be had there. Let me give you the, if I could find it, I'll get back to that. Excuse me while I pull it up on screen. I lost it in one of these tabs. Elektor Lab Talk giveaway. There it is. Our code word is already on the screen. Thank you. And this is the page, the URL that you see on your screen. And the code word, since it's the cheap yellow display, would be yellow. So go ahead and enter that. It's quite an exciting little project, and you can do a lot with it. Okay, let's close that tab before we lose other tabs in the tab nest. And let's move over to labs now, because we have a luxury problem, which is that we have this wonderful labs project, and community can submit their own projects here about community projects. But if you go to Elektor Labs, Electronics Projects, elektormagazine.com/labs, at the top there is the correct URL. But look how many projects we've had in the month since we did our last lab talk. So Saad, Jens, and I have chosen some of our favorites. I guess I would start with this simple, almost no-code 3D viewer for HTML pages, which, Jens, I believe was your favorite selection.
Yes, I like that project. Saad also likes it, I think, because yes, Saad is very experienced in KiCad, and he also likes these 3D images of PCBs. So yeah, if you have a PCB, then you can really turn it and so on, and see it from the bottom. And yeah, this guy managed it to embed this 3D. Yeah, that's good that you went on that web page. Yeah, this guy managed it to embed that 3D viewer from KiCad in a web page, and he's explaining how to do that. So I think that's a very nice feature. You can design a PCB, and then you can embed that in your own HTML code. So yeah, I like that project.
That's great. For those of you who want to visit the 3D model, scroll down to the bottom of this labs page, and he's got a GitHub repo with further information there. I like the look of that. Having it on your own website is kind of a nice feature, even maybe for us at Elektor to show off our boards. And then you, Saad, you're back to power supplies. How did this one appeal to you?
Well, I really like power supplies. So, and also it's a really well-written article. So it's basically a 0.8 volt to 6 volt rail up to 2.5 amps. Plus there's rails for 4 volts to 20 volts plus minus. and it's all running from a LiPo battery. The architectures, yeah, I don't have to explain much more about it, but it's really good. It's using an Arduino Nano to set the voltages with the digital pots. And then, yeah, I think he's also using regulators for switching to a decent, decent efficiency for that. Yeah, pretty good. There's very less ripple as well. But yeah, I have to make one and test myself. But looking at the pictures and the design, I believe it will be really good for if someone wants to make his own power supply. It's a good start.
Now, so you've even got a differential 20 volt and minus 20 volt output there.
Yep.
If I could ask you, how many power supplies do you need? And you can ask me, how many Raspberry Pis do you need? It's one of those things you like to collect, right?
Yeah, I mean, I only have 2 power supplies, but I can use more. But for electronic projects, I think 2 is enough. 2 is basically enough. But yeah, 3, 4, yeah, 4 would be nice. But yeah, it only depends if you have a really good high very less ripple, high quality power supply. 1 power supply is enough, which has 2 output rails. So that's pretty much good enough for every project. Because basically, yeah, you sometimes need more than 1 voltage input just to check. And of course, digital load is also very important. But yes, power supply is much more important than that.
Yeah. I haven't seen differential output in a while, but I'm not hoarding power supplies either. But back in the early days of computers with CMOS and stuff, the power supply had to have a negative as well to run the RAM for some reason. I'm not an expert, but it was a pain. You couldn't always get a negative output from any random power supply. And as for me, I've always loved the idea of GPS clocks because I'm old school and I come from a time when all the clocks in the house were different. The VCR was 2 minutes behind and the kitchen clock was ticking 5 minutes ahead. And eventually they came up with internet time, NTP, network time protocol. But then you had to have a computer on and connected to the internet, which, you know, wasn't that widespread in the 90s. But GPS is just there. It's a satellite 20,000 kilometers up in space, while a whole fleet of them doing 2 orbits a day, and they have atomic clocks. And I just love GPS clocks, not as much as you love power supplies, but I like this one because it's simple, it's practical, it's actually useful. I like the matrix display in a bottle. That's a nice little stylistic nod there. Again, as a GitHub repository, and it runs on Atmega 328P, the chip from the Arduino Uno, which I have a lot of experience with, so I like that too. And it's got a GPS module, so the time is always spot on, no drifting, even if you're stuck in the Kalahari Desert. And the design isn't overcomplicated. You can just throw it together on a breadboard if you want, but it still teaches solid skills like interrupts, important skill once you get a little bit more advanced in Arduino. And serial comms, of course, UARTs, that's a basic thing you start off with. But serial comms, arrays, and in the end, you've got a clean, reliable clock that keeps the time to within crazy OCD accuracy. So thanks to you.
Yeah, now I was looking at this video, and now there are these modules which you can connect in your PC with the PCI connector, and it's also connected to GPS. And as the NTP, you have to be linked to. If you go in the time settings of your Windows PC, there you will be pinging some of the atomic clocks. You can choose the most closest to you to reduce the milliseconds, but there's always a difference between the clocks and the time difference between the updates, and also there's drifting. So the people dealing with servers, they install this GPS synchronized this module into the PC, and it's down, I think, below even millisecond delay, and it's all the time it's syncing with the GPS satellites, so the clock is really accurate. So yeah, this is not only for normal clocks, but now these are also used in PCs, even with the internet.
Yeah,
but it's only working outside, so or is it also
No.
working in buildings?
I believe in buildings, yes. So server, where let's say if I have a lot of server stuff, and there's
but
another
the GPS, you cannot receive a GPS signal.
Yeah, but now they have these antennas which you can mount on like on the window, and then yeah, you will get good reception.
Yeah, like I said in the last show, I built an Elektor GPS project over 20 years ago. A little GPS antenna, which I put through my car sunroof, and it had magnetic mounts. But I think slowly as time has gone on, GPS has gotten more sensitive, more reliable, so you don't always have to have direct line of sight contact with that satellite, even looking at your phone indoors. So I wonder what sort of sensitivity we could get if we could run a clock like this, sort of semi-indoors or close to a window or something. It's not exactly high-speed data, but of
I would
course
say that the antenna really matters. If you have a good antenna, it can even work in a ground floor, where like a 3-story building. It works at the ground floor. But if it's a bad antenna, it might not even work under a ceiling. Yeah, so this is very, I would say, dependent upon a lot of factors. But the antenna one is basically the number one thing. If you have a really good antenna, it works.
Yeah, I think in about 2007, I got a Nokia phone. It's the E50, so the screen was only about this big, but it had a separate Bluetooth GPS receiver. And having had experience with GPS, I thought there's no way in hell this thing is going to work without direct line of sight. But my friend didn't believe me, and he put it in the mirror flap underneath the metal roof. And I said, there's no way that's ever going to work. And guess what? It did work. So sometimes you can be surprised with an indoor antenna.
Okay.
Herbert Betts wants to see that KiCad thing again. Sorry, KiCad. Let's go back to community projects. It is a worthy demo to look at. Bring that up on screen.
You can find it on the Labs page. That is.
Yeah. Here you go. Go to the Labs page.
Elektormagazine.com/labs. Yeah, you can find all the projects. And I have to say, we will talk tomorrow, I think, in an internal meeting about these projects we presented.
Great.
And yeah, there are very good chances that we take it for an Elektor article. So everyone who has an idea or has a project on his desk, please don't hesitate to put it on Labs, and then we editors will have a look on these.
And just for Herbert, you won't find a 3D embed here, but click through to the GitHub repo at the bottom of the page, and then scroll down to live demo. Then you see it. Always a good one. Frank De Haat's put in a YouTube link. I think that's about the C++ code in Arduino. That it's kind of difficult to copy and paste that from this platform that I'm on, so a little bit difficult. Frank wants to know, is the 3D viewer not a standard part of KiCad, or is it a plugin?
I think it's a standard. I think it's a standard part, but this guy really managed it that you can view outside a KiCad. So yeah, that is not KiCad. So you can embed the 3D model in your own web page.
It's exactly what I was saying about it being useful even to Elektor, as long as it's open source.
Yes.
A lot of our projects we could embed and have a more interactive web page.
We check that option, yes.
I like it. Comment about GPS Lex van der Wiel. I used to have an alarm clock that basically did the same. I also had to tape the antenna to the window for it to work. An alarm clock, was that for the time, or was that to listen to the radio? Alarm clock brings back old school memories to me. This is a long comment. From Long Island, New York. I'm an amateur and looking to implement longer range garden sensors, water, temperature, etc., particularly for monitoring a community garden plot a few blocks distant. Interested in the use of lithium-ion capacitors rather than the ubiquitous batteries given the use of old solar lights for their solar cell and uninteresting housing. Have y'all any experience here? I think, Saad, you did a lot with sensors and LoRa and so on. But in terms of lithium-ion capacitors, I'm not even familiar with those
I
at all.
haven't used, I didn't use capacitors at all, but I was really amazed when I was at the Embedded World event, and there were so many projects powered by capacitors. But yeah, I don't think they had sensors. But now with the LoRa project I was doing, I think with load switches and everything, I think now you can do that with a capacitor. But I believe you need a really big capacitor and a really power optimized microcontroller. So I don't think ESP32 is that microcontroller for that much power optimization, but there are microcontrollers by Ambiq. There's a microcontroller by STM. I believe it's the U0. And yes, they had really small solar panels, I believe a size of your index finger, this big, and it was working, sending sensor data and via LoRa. So yeah, I'm not sure which LoRa module was it, but I would think it was made by themselves as well. So yeah, there is potential with these small capacitors, but yeah, I haven't tested with them personally.
And a long time ago, there was talk of supercapacitors. I just mean they've been around a while. Do you have any experience with those?
No, but yeah, in the project, there is a supercapacitor for the GPS to power as a backup. And now I think there's a company in the Netherlands, I don't know its name, but they are really small supercapacitors which you can integrate in your PCB. And yeah, if the system is really optimized, it can work for more than weeks. So it really delves down to how you optimize your system. Yeah, of course, you're going to use a capacitor. It's going to act like a battery. But yeah, to use that power efficiently is more important than just using a capacitor.
Yeah. And Lex van der Wiel clarifies it was for both. The time would not automatically update if it had no range. It almost sounds to me like you were picking up time servers in Europe, which we couldn't here in South Africa, but I always saw projects for that in Elektor. I believe there was a transmitter in Germany that would give the time out all the time. But GPS covers the globe. Okay, now, as earlier, I promised you that we would talk more about Elektor Academy Pro, and I just want to show you these quickly. So this is the new Academy Pro boxes from Elektor. Like this one is the red Pitaya box for learning FPGA programming with Verilog, and it's a very comprehensive box. And I got early access thanks to Elektor, and it comes with a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm not going to turn it all upside down. I already have. And it's got red Pitaya built in. It comes in the box. So instead of me turning the box upside down, I'll just show you the bit of the YouTube video. Look at all the hardware that comes with. And not only hardware, books, online course on Udemy, quite an incredible assortment there. And then recently I received this one. Speaking of KiCad, this box is Design PCBs Like a Pro. And this is from our author, Peter Del Morris, who has been on a couple of our shows before. And it's a heavy box because it's very comprehensive, and it has both of his books. And these, as you can tell, are quite in-depth. This is a thick and heavy book, and everything you need to know about KiCad, not only in the books, but you get the welcome instruction manual. You get, well, maybe not show the code off because you'll steal my course. But yeah, this is great stuff. And if you'd like to learn and you like to spend a weekend learning about whether it's KiCad or FPGA or Verilog, this is the Elektor Academy Pro brand that was recently launched this year. And for that, I want to hear more about the Elektor Academy Pro brand. And I'm going to bring up Alexander Neumann as promised earlier. Alexander, I'm liking these products. They were heavy to ship to South Africa, but well worth it. Could you tell us more about the Elektor Academy Pro brand?
Hello, Ryan. Hello, Jens. Hello, Saad. Greetings from Central Germany. Yes, we at Elektor started this Elektor Academy Pro initiative in May this year, and yeah, we'd like to switch more, or we want to have more products for professionals. So that's the Pro in the Elektor Academy Pro. And one thing is are these Pro boxes you mentioned. And very nice products with lots of learning materials inside. And Elektor is doing books for years, but we'd like to have more books for professionals. That's another thing we are in it now more. And yes, and that's my role. I'm responsible for the conference and event business at Elektor. We want to do conferences for professionals. The first one we had was in July about the use of Rust, the programming language in embedded. And there will be more. One we will talk about soon. For example, I planned conferences this year for on several. Then we want to have something on the Cyber Resilience Act. Edge AI is a topic we can imagine to have a conference, and we want to have more webinars dedicated especially to professionals.
Great. And looking at the Elektor Academy Pro page that I showed earlier,
it's a beta version, I would say, but there are some information. You see what is planned and what is coming. There will be more pretty soon.
Well, also the box sets are great, and then you hold full-day conferences, and this one coming up soon is on post-quantum cryptography. So what made you choose that as a subject for your next conference?
It's unclear when post-quantum computers will be there. That they can crack traditional cryptography algorithms like RSA or ECC. When it will be this Q day, I don't know, but there are some people are speaking of 5 years. Others are there's the meaning that the opinion that it will be minimum 10 to 15 years. But when this so-called Q day happens, companies and their security experts have to be prepared. And especially it will be relevant for companies which are in the embedded and IoT sectors, because their components are often designed for a long service life, and there is that is known for some time. So in 2017, the National Institute of Standards and Technology launched a call to develop new algorithms that can circumvent attacks by quantum computers. And the good thing is, after years of researching, have a look on all these algorithm proposals. Last year, the first NIST standards for post-quantum cryptography were then published in August 2024. And they shall be resistant to attacks by quantum computers. Another thing which is relatively new, this summer, an EU working group published a coordinated implementation roadmap for the transition to post-quantum cryptography with recommendations the member states need to implement for the transition to PQC, and there are similar initiatives in the States and in the UK too. So you see there is a lot of movement on the topic, and that all will help. But the existing algorithms are more resource intensive than the traditional ones. So to implement these, that is especially in resource constrained environments, complex task. And all these things I mentioned will be tackled in our conference. Yeah, we are focusing on security and cryptography experts and also on people who are responsible for the PQC strategy, and scientists who wants to have a look on practical implementations on PQC. I would say it's now the right time to have a look on it, because Q Day will come. We don't know when, but to have a secure implementation in tools, in services, wherever cryptography is relevant, it would be better.
Awesome. And as a nice surprise, thanks for sponsoring us from Elektor Academy Pro. Alexander Neumann has got us normal prices $229, but he's got a voucher code here that you can use to get 50 euros off.
Yep.
There it is. There's your URL.
And it is, if you are under member, you will get this 50 euro discount. If you are under member at Elektor, you will get this. And if you aren't the right people for this topic, please share this information. We will send you an email tomorrow to invite you using this code, visiting this conference. The conference itself, Brian mentioned this on October 1st.
Yes, indeed. So if you have any questions about the conference for Alexander, now's the time to start typing. Just on that note, Jack, you asked if Saad or Jens work with KiCad. Yes, they do. So if you have any questions for them, drop it in the chat. We still have a few minutes left. So Alexander, looking long term, what comes after post-quantum cryptography? What subjects are of interest to you that you would possibly like to cover?
I can say something about the presentations. We have six presentations. All will be 45 minutes with a 15-minute Q&A where all the attendees can interact directly with the speakers. So I'd like the idea to have a lot of network on such a conference. It's an online conference. Maybe I've forgotten to say it. And we have some cool speakers there. Klaus Schmee, for an example, he's a well-known author and expert on security in Germany. He will do the opening. We will speak about crypto agility. We have Detlef Udo from Infineon there. He will speak about the mentioned efforts from the standardization. I mentioned it. They were relatively new. We will learn about PQ Shield's work on a RISC-V based accelerator. Then we will have an example talk on crypto agility in automotive real-time systems. And finally, we will present a lecture of a huge company about their PQC strategy. But I have to say, due to holidays, it isn't confirmed so far, but I hope it will work. Yeah.
Awesome. We are just coming through summer now for you guys in the Northern Hemisphere, but I'm sure you will have a huge pickup on that because PQC is an upcoming topic that it's getting some people nervous. So I'm glad there is some sort of standardization going on. Frank de Hart wants to know about a part in an article that he was finding difficult to find. It's the 4G module, and he can't find it on AliExpress. Well, I found it, so I'll drop this link in the, it's one of them terribly long links. I think it should work if we just use that part. Drop that in the chat here. And then from Herbert Betts, regarding the development of ESP32, I struggle about debugging. What if there is not the expected result of your otherwise running C code? Is serial printing feedback not too cumbersome? I use that technique. What about you, Saad?
You are mute, Saad.
Yes, it is cumbersome for sure. But yes, there's a tool called ESP Prog. You can easily purchase it for the ESP32 microcontrollers, and then you can use for debugging. It works on platform IO. Last time I used it on platform IO. I don't know if it's working with the IDE, but yes, it's a really helpful tool. Yeah, it's gonna take you in libraries. It's gonna take you in really deep level code stuff, which you don't want to see. But it's a really nice tool to visualize all the variables, what's happening. Yeah, and eventually you will find a solution of your problem.
Awesome. Yeah, I still use that method. Sometimes if it's too slow, you may have to switch to other means like little displays or LEDs. Well, it seems the chat room has gone quiet and we've almost reached the top of the hour anyway. I would encourage you to check out the Elektor Academy Pro post-quantum cryptography conference, which is upcoming. We've given you the discount code, so you can get 50 euros off just for the privilege of watching this show. So thanks again to our sponsor, Elektor Academy Pro. Let's take down Herbert's question. There was a question there. Please write out the name of the ESP debug tool. Can you help me with that, Saad? I'll put it in.
Posted in the chat.
Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone joining us from around the world. Saad's about to log off. It's late where he is. Thanks for joining us, Saad.
You're welcome.
And Jens, as always, our chef redacteur, as they say in German, editor-in-chief. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're busy with the new issue that's coming out.
Thank you too, Brian.
Alexander Neumann from Elektor Academy Pro, keeping the minds learning across the world. So I hope you guys could join the post-quantum cryptography, that's quite a mouthful, conference on October the 1st. Thanks for joining us, Alexander.
Thanks very much. I've tried to do 5 minutes to speak it right.
Well, I'm no stranger to that either. And thanks to everyone from around the world once again, and have a good evening. Good luck if you enter the competition, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are.